Hey everybody, Jeff Schneider here. So a few years ago, I wrote this blog post called The Chopin Trick for Awesome Chord Progressions. And it's such a simple but effective tip for creating beautiful chord progressions that I wanted to share it with you in a video so you can hear it in action and do the same thing at home when you want to create better and more beautiful chord progressions. This was all inspired, by the way, by a lesson I taught many years ago where we were analyzing the chord progression to Chopin's Prelude in E minor. It's a really famous piece. You probably will recognize it. It goes like this. One of the reasons it works is because of how smooth the voice leading is. Sure, you can analyze it with Roman numerals using functional harmony, the stuff we talk about a lot on this channel, like secondary dominance and tritone substitution, all that jazz. But you can also create a chord progression like this using only voice leading as your main technique. And I find the best way to teach this technique is with triads only, so just 3 notes per chord. So let's try it out. Let's start with a G Major Triad. And I'm going to play it in second inversion. So we have a D on the bottom, that's the 5th of the chord, then G, that's the root, and then B, the 3rd. Now here's how you play the game. All you have to do is pick one of those notes and move it up or down a half step. I'm going to go with G, and we're going to go down a half step. So everything else is going to stay the same. But the G is going to go from G to F sharp. That's going to sound like this. Here's the G major to start. And then nice. Now we could analyze that as like a B minor chord, or maybe it's implying like a G major 7, but we're going to hold off on the analysis for now. So let's pick a chord tone from our new chord and go down or up a half step. I'm going to choose the D this time, the bottom note, and we'll go to a C sharp. Now everything else stays the same. And granted, I'm not really using my ear right now to compose this chord progression. I'm more using this technique as a way of exploring harmony to find chords and chord progressions I wouldn't have come up with otherwise. So let's hear what this sounds like. I'll start with the G major, then lower the middle note, then lower the bottom note. Nice. Okay, let's do this now. Let's lower the middle note again. We'll go from F sharp to F natural. Keep everything else the same. Let's hear what that all sounds like. From the beginning. So we've had that B on top for a while now. Let's change the top note. We'll go down to a B flat, and we'll keep the other notes the same. I love the sound of that chord there. That's like a B flat minor. And I wouldn't have come up with that chord without this technique, because it's not an expected chord. Like, that's not where my ear naturally hears this progression going. And that's what's cool about this. It's kind of like when I play guitar. I don't know the notes that well. I don't know the chord shapes that well, but I can kind of figure out these different shapes just by exploring and having fun. And it adds this sense of adventure. And so I happen upon these chord progressions and these chords that I wouldn't have landed on otherwise. And it's the same experience with this exercise, which is why I like it so much. So let's talk about a few guidelines to help you use this technique successfully. So as I said, half steps are the way to go here. Move one half step at a time, one voice at a time. Pick the bottom voice, the middle voice, or the top voice, and move down or up a half step. You can use whole steps, but when you're starting out with this, it's really hard to go wrong with a half step. Going down instead of up is generally a safer bet, but you can go up as well. The key thing to remember here is if it doesn't sound good, then just go back to the chord you had before and try a different voice in a different direction and see how that sounds. There's nothing wrong with trying something, not liking it, and then just going back to the chord you were at before and trying something else. That's totally fine. Don't be afraid to experiment. Okay, here's another guideline to keep in mind. Avoid half steps and major sevenths. Here's what I mean. Let's say you land on this chord and it's a C, a D, and a G. This sound. That's a nice sounding chord, but what I want you to avoid is then taking this middle voice and going down a half step to D flat, because that will create a half step between these two intervals, and that's gonna sound like this. Now, could you make this work? Maybe, but again, I just want to give you these guidelines to help you be as successful as possible with this exercise. And in general, those half-step intervals within the chord are going to be a little too clunky, and I suggest avoiding them. Same goes for major sevenths. So let's say you're on that chord I started with at the beginning, the G major in second inversion, and you go from that chord and then you move the bottom voice down to C sharp. That sounds good. But what I don't want you to do here is take this top voice, this B, and go up to a C natural, because what that does is it creates a major 7 interval between those outer voices, which sounds like this. So from the beginning, again, could you make this work? Potentially, but it's a safer bet to avoid major sevenths, just like those half steps. All right, so now I'm gonna demonstrate this technique a little bit more and talk out loud my thoughts about what I like and what I don't like, so you can hear what's going on inside my head. Here we go. We'll start with an A flat major chord in first inversion, and then let's try top voice down. Nice. That's like a C minor chord there. So C, E flat, G. Okay, that's interesting, going down from the C to the B. Augmented triads, like I have here, this C, E flat, and G. Sometimes those can be a little tricky to make work, but I think we can do it here. I like that a lot. So we have that middle voice going down to a D, then a B on the bottom, a G on top. Let's do a quick analysis just for the heck of it. We've got A flat major here, then we have C minor, and then we have this, we could call it, B augmented. And then we go to G major. Here it is again with an arpeggio to make it a little bit more fancy. So I don't think I would come up with this chord progression if it weren't for this technique, but I like it. It's cool. I could hear this in a solo piano piece or maybe some kind of a film score. If I didn't play it with that voice leading and I just saw those chords in a lead sheet and I played them in root position, it would sound like this. It doesn't have the same effect. Voice leading is so important. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't spend time studying functional harmony and doing the Roman numeral analysis and understanding how the chords relate to one another in terms of the dominant functions and all the rest. Like I said, I talk about that a lot on this channel for good reason, because it helps to understand why one chord sounds good going to another. And if you feel like you need more help understanding all of those intricate music theory rules, I highly recommend you check out my course. It's called Chord Theory for R&B Piano, and it's not just for R&B. You can use it for jazz and any kind of advanced harmony. It's everything I know about how to create chords and chord progressions and reharmonization and how to build voicings so that you can get those full, rich, thick harmonies like this kind of thing.